I'm Kevin Davis, and this is the Catholic Family Podcast, and I'm very happy to be joined by a regular to the show and someone who has been covering with us for, it's got to be about a year now. A very important topic, a very, I suppose, sad topic, dark topic to be sure, and that is occultism and its effects on the world. We've covered, I think it's got to be around 10 episodes so far. You can find those on the channel. I'll make sure that they're all in a playlist. I think most of them are. I'll make sure they're there. They're excellent. They're not light discussions. They're not something that's going to make you feel bubbly and light after you listen to them, but they are very informative, and they're something that's going to open your eyes to what's going on in the world around us, and to open your eyes about how we need to be careful, especially with our children, what they are putting into their minds, what they are reading and watching on television, what they're doing for Halloween. We're going to talk about that also today. So we really appreciate him coming on all the time. That is, of course, Intro Ebo. That's not his real name. That is a pseudonym, unless his parents had a strange, maybe very, very devout Catholic parents to name him Intro Ebo, I suppose. But we always love having you on. And today we're going to talk about, I think, some kind of a new age idea of angels. And then I think we're also going to talk about Halloween a bit as well. But before, please go over to, or I should say after you listen to this, go over to his blog at introebo.adultari2.blogspot.com. He produces content every week on Mondays. It's fantastic. He just produced this week the correlation between suicide and the occult. Fascinating stuff. It's not only the occult. He doesn't only publish things about the occult. He talks about the faith and all sorts of different topics as well. Very good stuff. Highly recommend it. We'll of course attach the link in the podcast. Intro Ebo, finally, how are you doing? And what are we talking about today?
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me again. And this time I'd like to discuss the occult connection to angels. And it's a topic that is going to be terse, but I think it's important. And the reason it's important is because angels are real, and angels are totally traditional Catholic. There are guardian angels. We all have one. And, the teach October 2nd, as a matter of fact, in this month, is dedicated to the Feast of the Guardian Angels. So to give you an idea of where this is going, I was driving around here in New York City, and I saw a bumper sticker that said, "This car is protected by angels." Well, okay, nothing overtly wrong with that. But then on either side of that bumper sticker, there were two other bumper stickers, and one said, "Magic happens," and the one on the other side says, "Visualize world peace." So this was not someone who was talking about the holy guardian angels or Saint Michael, the archangel, or anything like that. This is someone who had a new age occult concept of what angels are. And in the mid-90s, there was a large number of books published on the subject of angels. And later on, there was some talk about them, with mediums would talk about them a lot. These Tyler Henry and these so-called mediums would talk about how angels are helping them and guiding them. And I've seen in the last few years a resurgence of this. I would say since just around the time the COVID debacle started, I started noticing a lot of people talking again about angels, but they're not talking about angels the way they truly are. They're talking about angels in the new age occult concept. It's also interesting because if you realize Satan himself and his demons, what are they? Fallen angels. So to know what angels really are and what it's really about is important. So we know that all of the occult is condemned by the church. A theologian, Yona, Herbert Yona, the correct way to pronounce his last name. Some people say Joan, J-O-N-E, but it's really Yona. Said Spiritism claims to be able to communicate with the spirit world and endeavors to establish such commerce with it. Although Spiritism is for the most part fraud, still the intention alone to enter into communication with spirits is gravely sinful. Therefore, it is mortally sinful to conduct a spiritistic seance or to act as a medium. That's in his one-volume Moral Theology, page 100. So even the intention to come in contact with something that is occult, right, is mortally sinful. Now, there are prayers to angels, and that is not mortally sinful. That is something that is good. That is something that is wholesome. So you have to be careful here. When people start talking about that, it's perfectly fine to pray to angels, but you have to be sure that what it is you're praying to truly is an angel to begin with. Now, in the 1990s, I'm going to name some books here that came out with very bizarre ideas. There was a book by Terry Lynn Taylor and Mary Beth Crane, published by HarperCollins in 1994, entitled Angel Wisdom. And people are encouraged to use mantras, shamanistic vision quests, to go on a vision quest to find your place in the circle of life. This is from Native American occultism, all right? And to contact your power animal. Your angel will appear to you as a spirit guide in the form of an animal that will help you, and to manipulate chakras and get involved with psychic healing. Needless to say, the angels that are talked about here, it's not their wisdom and it's not wise. There was another one, in 1993, there was a deck of cards that came out, angelic messenger cards. And this is something you can buy, you can still buy it. You ask people to learn and accept contacting the dead. So right there's your red flag. There's another one that came out, Creating with the Angels. In that book, people are told, quote, dream time is spirit time and offers a great opportunity to play with the angels. Allow the angels to help you interpret your dreams. And that book came out in 1993. In 1993 was another book, The Angels Deep Within Us, or excuse me, The Angels Within Us. And the angels are said to take people deep into altered states of consciousness in order to establish contact with them. So you're to allow the angels into you. This is not Catholic. Angels don't come into you. Right? It's one thing to say a prayer to St. Michael the Archangel. We say it after the low mass. Perfect. But we don't ask St. Michael to come inside of us. That is New Age. That is occult.
And it's interesting that this is actually something I listened to a show, a couple years ago now, I think, from Joe Rogan. Don't ask me why. I'm not really sure. I think maybe it was a part of a show on YouTube or something, and it came on. I don't even remember why I listened to it, but it was interesting because he was talking about really this exact thing in a way, and it was getting on these drugs. I couldn't tell you what drugs, LSD or something, or peyote or something crazy, and that's one great reason why not to listen to Joe Rogan, because he's a total nutcase. But he was talking about how they would do these meetings, I suppose, maybe seances, I guess you could say, and they were taking these drugs, and they were saying that they would have these group dreams, or they would dream of these. I think he even called them angels or aliens or whatever. And some of them would have the same experience. Apparently, that's what they say, at least while taking this drug. And to me, it was like, and I think he looked at it like he was like this, oh, this is such a positive thing, and we're connecting with other beings in different universes. I mean, obviously, just again, stupid talk. And to me, it's like, well, there's your demons, bro. I mean, it sounds exactly like you're just literally opening yourself to be possessed. Surely, creepy stuff. I mean, it's interesting that you bring this up, because it's something that's been on my mind for a while now, just because him talking about it and how these people after that were even seeking to have that experience again.
Well, it's very interesting you bring that up, because two people can't dream the same dream,
right?
Which means there had to be something objective to it.
Oof.
Which is, and there was a case of a good example of this. I think I mentioned it in one of the podcasts before. I'll just say it briefly. There were two young girls. It's called the Slender Man murders, and they plotted for months to murder their friend, and they almost succeeded. She was stabbed something like 14 times, and she was found all bloody on the side of the road. And these girls are now in an institution for 25 years to life or something like that. They're in a mental institution, but they were never able to answer the question, how was it possible that they both had a psychotic break at the same time and dreamed the same dream? How did they get the same exact description of this so-called Slender Man? The exact same things they said. Even when they were apart, their stories didn't change. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, they did it, but I think it was definitely demonically influenced. It wasn't something that, two kids just happened to have a mental breakdown. Because if that were the case, they wouldn't be so much, one with the other. Everything that one child said, the other one confirmed. And even when they were apart, they had no way of signaling each other, doing anything like that. I even asked the psychiatrist, is this possible? And he just looked at me blank for a minute, and he goes, well, I have to admit, I don't know how that was done. So he wasn't willing to go there to the supernatural, but he was also not able to give me a straight answer as to, how is that possible? So yeah, when they're having these, collective. There's no such thing as a collective hallucination. Yes, there can be something. There is something in a group when there is a group mentality. That is true. That can happen, but it's usually something along the lines of. There was an experiment done here in New York City. We're going back now in the 80s. And what they did, they had somebody go up and stand on the fifth floor of the building, and like he was going to commit suicide. And they had one guy, they put a guy, people start coming around. They put one guy purposely this was NYU psychology department did this. They put a guy and he said, jump, jump. And all of a sudden everyone's screaming, jump. Right. So they followed somebody who looked really respectable. They followed him to his job. And they're like, why were you screaming for that young man in his 20s to jump? He goes, I would never do that. I've got a kid his age. And they showed him the video, and the guy was just like, his jaw dropped. He says, oh my God, he doesn't remember doing it. He got so caught up in groupthink.
Crazy.
Something like that can happen. But you're not talking about people sitting there and having a time with drugs, and then all of a sudden they all have the same drug-induced hallucination. No, that goes the exact same way for each of them. You're right. There's something else at work there. So that is true. So on just getting back to angels, Rosemary Ellen Guiley was the author of Angels of Mercy. This woman is interesting because she was, until she died of colon cancer, she was a member of the Vatican II sect. And she also wrote the Encyclopedia of Witches and Witchcraft. Yeah, and she had as her advisor a Vatican II sect priest who saw nothing wrong with any of this. Now, I know they're not very well trained, but if you see the Encyclopedia of Witches and Witchcraft, I think that would be a tip-off that this is not going to be Catholic, but I guess not. Had she gone to a traditional mass, he would have, thrown her out, but not this. So on page 217 of her book, on Guiley's book called Angels of Mercy, here's what she writes, and you have to listen to this because this is very interesting. Quote, if we start mistrusting the angels of light, fearing that they are demons in disguise, her words, then we paralyze ourselves, which is precisely what the dark side wants. They would like us to trust nothing and encase ourselves trembling in fear. Fear is the best weapon the darkness has. Fear is the fertile breeding ground for all evil. The engines of darkness have terrible power, but nonetheless, they cannot stand up to the greater, more awesome power of light and love, unquote. So she says that when you have angels appearing to you, accept them as such and never fear that they're demons. Why would she say that? That's kind of odd. And when I saw that, I highlighted that. I said, this is really, really strange.
Well, it sounds like what I tell my kids, right? If you see a stranger, then don't you dare fear that they could be bad. You trust everyone you see. You take if someone offers you candy, you take it. I mean, really?
Right.
This
Get
is
in
the
car and take the candy.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But the incorrect ideas about angels, I've read in books and on online sources, and even up to recently. And to effectively battle the enemy, you must know thy enemy. And there are 3 incorrect beliefs that are now circulating widely about angels. And the first is that there's a theory that they're spirits of a pre-Adamic race, of a race that existed prior to Adam and Eve as the first parents. And this theory claims that this race existed on earth before it became dark and void, according to Genesis 1, verse 2. And these human-like creatures lived under the government of God and were presided over by Lucifer, which Ezekiel calls the anointed cherub that covereth. And that was Ezekiel 28:14. When these pre-Adamites joined Lucifer in revolt against God, a disaster fell upon earth, killing all the inhabitants prior to Adam and Eve. The souls of these creatures roamed the earth seeking to possess people because they were meant to be united to flesh. That's a very strange idea, and here are the errors. Despite what the New Age literature and the occult would like you to believe, there is not even a hint in the Bible or church teaching that would justify belief in intelligent creatures upon earth prior to the first parents. It is also heretical in that it denies hell and has God leaving rational souls wandering about the earth to possess human bodies. The original thesis was adopted by racists, actually. These were racists who claimed that whites or Gentiles came from pre-Adamites and that non-whites and Jews came from Adam and Eve. By the way, yeah, I had the thing about Hitler, and I was excoriated more than most of the comments I couldn't even publish because he's a great guy. Just in case you want to know.
Oh, I've known that for a long time. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of Adolf Hitler. Unbelievable. Yeah.
This was used to justify the idea somehow of racial superiority, and the Newer Age version puts a twist on it to explain the origin of demons. And so that's one of the really kooky occult ideas that are out there. And I was surprised how many times I found it online and in books. The second one is the alien theory. And this theory comes from a book written over 50 years ago. In 1968, a guy by the name of Eric Van Daniken wrote a runaway bestseller entitled Chariots of the Gods. Sold millions of copies. And I think 7 million to be precise. And it was made into a movie of the same name in 1970. If you look it up, it's an old movie, Chariots of the Gods. And the thesis of the book is that the extraterrestrials came to Earth and are the basis of religion. So, for example, when there are two angels, when on the tomb of Jesus, they were really aliens with spacesuits on. And so everything that's, the great wheel in the sky seen by Ezekiel, well, that was a UFO. Was it what they call them now, unidentified aerial objects or whatever. It was one of those.
UAPs,
it was a it was a space vehicle. So and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was by alien weapons from a spaceship. And that's what they're claiming. All right, and these aliens were behind the pyramids of Egypt and in Stonehenge, and they built them all. And demons are evil aliens that have come to Earth to wreak havoc. That's the basis of that. And the errors are that it denies the existence of God. There's only these aliens, and they specifically, Von Daniken does not believe in God. And it also fails to explain why evil aliens would not just take over. Why are they doing all these strange things and then leaving? Why destroy Sodom and Gomorrah but left everything else okay? Scientifically and historically, there's so much wrong with it. I'd need like a whole nother podcast to explain it. But if you want a great refutation, if anyone wants to see a great refutation of Von Daniken's nutty theory, there's a book out by Clifford Wilson, put it out years later, called Crash Go the Chariots, which show poke holes in every single thing that he says. Wonderful book that I do recommend, Crash Go the Chariots. Now, there's another theory, the last one before I'll get into what the church actually teaches, is that they're the spirits of the deceased wicked. Spirits of deceased wicked. And this is a purely pagan theory. It teaches that good people who die will have their souls assume a godlike state in heaven, and the evil who die will roam the earth to incite the living humans to do evil. And this pagan conception, with its roots in Greek mythology, actually, has been used by Hollywood in movies. For example, the horror movie franchise The Nightmare on Elm Street, the main character, Freddy Krueger, is the maniacal killer and indestructible soul of a deceased child murderer. So he goes around doing all these things. In another movie called Child's Play, a doll is possessed by the soul of a dead voodoo strangler. And so that's where they get this idea that, these things are the deceased evil people are out doing things, and that these are the angels, these are the real spirits and angels that are being referred to. But the errors of the souls of the blessed in heaven do not become godlike or demigods. All right, rather they enjoy the beatific vision of God for all eternity. And likewise, the souls of the damned suffer the pains of hell forever. They don't roam the earth doing bad or good, unless they are, of course, demons, and demons properly understood, which I'll get to now. So what is the teaching of the church? So, and I take this, I've condensed this from the teachings of one of the greatest theologians in the history of the church, Adolphus Tanqueray. And theologian Tanqueray, his Manual of Dogmatic Theology, which was published and republished many times. The last time it was published was prior to the council in 1959. And he brings out the four major points, which is number one: in the beginning of time, God created spiritual essences out of nothing. It's a dogma declared by the Fourth Lateran Council and the first and the only Vatican Council, the Vatican Council of 1870, that simultaneously at the beginning of time, God created from nothing spiritual and physical creation, angelic and mundane. The creation of the angels is directly attested to in 1 Colossians 16. Quote, "For in him were all things created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominations or principalities or powers, all things were created by him and in him." Unquote. And that's for the angelic choirs that are directly mentioned. Second point, the number and hierarchy of the angels. There is no definitive teaching on how many angels exist. We don't know an exact number, although it is certain they are very numerous. Apocalypse chapter 5, verse 11 says, quote, I heard the voice of many angels, and the number of them was thousands of thousands, unquote. The so-called orders or choirs of angels are not an article of faith, but the theologians hold to it as theologically certain. The theological schools have put them into three hierarchies with three choirs in each hierarchy. The supreme hierarchy has the seraphim, cherubim, and thrones, and it is believed that Lucifer came from the highest, the seraphim. The intermediate hierarchy is composed of the dominations, virtues, and powers. The lowest hierarchy is made of principalities, archangels, and angels. Now, it is speculated that the difference in rank is due to the supreme hierarchy assisting at the throne of God and getting the orders directly from God himself. They then hand these orders down to the intermediate hierarchy, which in turn brings them down to the lowest hierarchy, and the angels bring messages when necessary to men. Or the name angel itself means a messenger. So that's what the word angel actually means, a messenger from God. Third point, the angels have an intellect superior to men and are endowed with free will. The angels were given a test, like the humans, to earn the beatific vision. They were subjected to a probation which a number failed, usually considered to be a third, and they became the demons in hell. The angels are vastly superior to humans, but cannot produce a true miracle, which is something only God can do. The leader of the rebellious angels became known as Satan, which means the adversary, the one who is against, and he hates and is against all those who take his place in heaven, human beings. And it's conjectured that approximately, again, a third of them followed him. Now, what was the test? Now, we don't know for certain. Theologians are divided, and we could go on and on for a long time. Most theologians agree it was the sin of pride, the majority of theologians. Some theologians speculate they didn't want to serve God, and other theologians, most notably the great Suarez, said that he taught that the sin of pride specifically was in refusing to obey and worship God the Son when it was made known that he would take on a human nature, even if humanity didn't fall, and that he didn't want to have anything to do with something that was inferior, a human nature. So we don't know what that is, but we do know that they failed the test. A third of them failed the test, and they are the demons, and they are led by Satan. Fourth point, every human being has a guardian angel who should be venerated and invoked. There are subpoints on this. Angels have a general guardianship over the human race, general, and it is good and salutary to pray to them and to venerate them. All humans, not just members of the One True Church, are given a guardian angel upon conception. Theologians agree even the Antichrist will have a guardian angel, but his efforts to turn him from utter wickedness will be in vain because of the sheer perversity of his will. It is to be rejected that every person also has a demon to tempt him. That was something that was taught in the early church and was rejected. It is impious to even think that God, who wills the salvation of all, would permit such a thing. Guardian angels ward off dangers of body and soul, consonant with the will of God, and they inspire good and salutary thoughts and convey our prayers to the throne of God. They assist us at the hour of death and bear the souls of the elect to heaven. In regard to Satan and his demons, they are fallen angels, and as such, they are pure spirits with intellect and will. They are capable of things people cannot do, as humans are both body and soul. The devil and his demons can hurt humanity in the following ways, principally through temptation. According to theologian Pohl, Satan and his demons continually strive by lies and false pretenses to seduce men to commit sin and incur eternal damnation. By physical injury, theologian Ott says the evil spirits seek to hurt mankind physically through causing a physical evil. And if you read the book of Job, Job went through all that he did as a direct physical cause, physical injury put on him by Ott when he had boils on his skin. And when he came very close to death, God would not permit him to die, but he did have all these horrible physical ills besides his material ills, and they were brought on by Satan. Possession. Theologian Ott, in some cases, people are possessed in which the demon takes forcible possession of the human body, so that bodily organs and the lower powers of the soul, but not the higher powers of the soul, are controlled by him. The possibility and reality of possession is firmly established by the express testimony of Jesus Christ himself, who drove out evil spirits and who bestowed power over evil spirits on his disciples. And we have the church's power of exorcism as proof of this. And then there's something called diabolic obsession. obsession, not possession, obsession. And that is the strong disturbances that are imposed on the mind. Thoughts of suicide, thoughts of committing serious sins, could even be gender dysphoria. Okay, it can also take the form of an infestation in the house. When you hear people hearing mysterious footsteps, bad odors that have no cause, and all experienced by more than one person. We have multiple attestations of people who come in and say these things are true. So even the encyclopedia tells us, the Catholic Encyclopedia of 1913, the influence of the demon, as we know from Scripture and the history of the Church, goes further still. It may attack man's body from without, obsession, they use the word, or assume control of it from within, possession. And then, according to theologian Della Porte, who was considered an expert in this field, although very rare in ordinary life, obsession is very frequent in the heroic lives of the saints. Persons of a nervous temperament and lively imagination imagine themselves hunted by the devil when there is nothing of the kind. People should not believe in obsession without the most convincing of proof. So it does happen, but don't think that, you hear something clump upstairs and now, well, that must be the devil coming after me. So we must be on guard against Satan, yet not ascribe direct demonic activity without ruling out all the natural causes first. You don't go to supernatural causes without ruling out the natural. So here we go. The angels are very real. Here's the conclusion: that angels are very real, but so are the fallen angels. So understand church teaching about both. It is wonderful to pray and be devoted to your guardian angel, St. Michael the Archangel, St. Gabriel, and St. Raphael. Those are the three of whom we know their specific names, and the choirs of the angels in general. However, we must be careful that we are not really praying to the angels. We should be careful that we are praying to the angels, not some counterfeit occult idea. If anyone claims that angels revealed something to them, for example, the entire Mormon religion, which you know quite a bit about, Kevin, came through the angel Moroni. Well, that was not a real angel. Joseph Smith was a Freemason. Joseph Smith was into the occult, and Joseph Smith claimed that Moroni, an angel, brought him these golden plates, which no one ever saw. And that, again, was an angel. Right? So if anyone claims that angels revealed something to them, that they're teaching something that was given to them by angels, chances are it is not an angel. And don't pray to it. Don't believe it. Before you buy any book that references angels, check if there's anything regarding faith and morals that is incompatible with church teaching, and therefore would be equally incompatible with the angels of God and what they would do. Any medium that tells you they received something from angels, well, they were fallen angels. They were not angels of God. Any occultist that tells you they have angels, again, we're dealing with occult angels. So be careful also when you get the bumper stickers, and the bumper stickers show nice angels. What type of angels are they? Are they referencing the angels of the Bible, or are they referencing some occult version of the angels? And when it comes to demons, we must understand what they really are, is to not get involved with their other errors. Hosea chapter 4, verse 8 is the reason that I do these posts on the occult. And it says, "My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge." That's what it says. "Because you have rejected knowledge, I also reject you as my priests. Because you have ignored the law of your God, I will also ignore your children." So you have to, when you're aware of these things, you can avoid them. And that's hopefully people will avoid the occult conception of angels and anything that people say this is produced or I got this from an angel, without completely referencing it and seeing that it's compatible with the true church teaching. Otherwise, there's the old aphorism, right? Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So
fitting. Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. And I think that it's also fitting in the time, leading right up to Halloween, that you have. And unfortunately, you don't have many children who have the desire to walk around dressed as actual, seraphic angels, I suppose, that are, that you see painted in the churches or whatnot. They're much more likely to be dressed as demons, which I think shows a very clear ignorance. I mean, I hope at least it's an ignorance rather than, actually wanting to be demonic. And I think that's something you wanted to mention today too, because it's so close. I mean, how, and again, talking about the occult, I mean, I think there really is occultism and witchcraft and whatnot that goes on during Halloween. I think that is well known. So, I mean, what are your suggestions for how to, I don't know, beware of the day that's coming up here in the next, 10 days or so?
Well, that's an excellent point. And you are correct that Halloween is immersed in the occult, and that is well known. However, there's two schools of thought. Usually, you have some overly zealous traditionalists and conservative Vatican II sect types, and many evangelical Protestants who say, well, have nothing to do with Halloween at all. It's evil. Don't mention it. Don't have anything to do with it. Not necessary. I mean, if somebody wants to not celebrate, it doesn't have to be celebrated. It's nothing that requires celebration of Halloween. But I don't believe that it is something that we must make no note of whatsoever. There's others that say there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And I wince when I see kids dressed up, as the devil or demons. And, not even that. You're talking about other things too, things from pop culture, which are evil. For example, Freddy Krueger, who I referenced before. I mean, this is, and there is no such person, but still he was a child murderer. So you want your kid dressed up as a child murderer. I mean, really. Some of the other outfits, I mean, like Wonder Woman, having your teenage daughter, 13, 14, going out immodestly dressed like that, that is not a modest costume, Wonder Woman. Ghostbusters is another one. They think, well, this is against. No, it's not against. They're not exorcists. As a matter of fact, Dan Aykroyd, I don't know how many people know this, his father wrote a book. He was an occultist. Dan Aykroyd is deeply into the occult. So, and the whole idea of, I know it was meant to be a comedy, but the whole idea of the Ghostbusters is a cult. So you have people go, that's another occult dress up. Star Wars, whether, even though you're Luke Skywalker, the alleged, good guy, it's all based on pantheism. The idea that, may the force be with you instead of may the Lord be with you. There again, why do you want them dressed up like that? And you have all these types of things, horror movie things, which horror movie characters. Deadpool, by the way, I've seen Deadpool now. I don't know if Deadpool is supposed to be a superhero. Superheroes, when I were growing up, at least I'll say this much. When I was growing up in when I was a little kid in the early mid 70s, they were they never did anything wrong. They were like these ultra, they didn't even have a private life, really. They were just going out and saving the world and then coming back and doing something for a couple of days, and then that was it. But now you have like Deadpool is a sociopath. He's a sociopath. There's nothing good about him at all. I mean, he just does whatever's in his own best self-interest. And it's an anti-hero. He's an anti-hero, and this kid's dressed up like Deadpool. So what I would suggest is 3 things that could be done for Halloween. Number 1, if your kid is interested in something, why not dress up as a good character from history? All right. For example, there's kids interested in something medieval. Instead of knight in shining armor, how about King St. Louis IX? My patron saint.
Yeah,
that's one going. Your daughter, how about St. Joan of Arc? How about St. Maria Goretti? I could go through a whole list of St. Francis of Assisi. That's a great one. You get the robe and all that. Cool. And you could also do historical figures which are not necessarily religious. For example, George Washington, the last president who didn't tell a lie. You could do great characters from history who were Catholic, and there's nothing wrong. Dr. Louis Pasteur was he was a great devout Catholic and one of the greatest scientists of all time. So that would be the first thing. Second thing, instead of giving sugar, give sanctity. Sanctity, not sugar. How do you do that? Well, how about this? In a little bag of treat, give a little bag of treats, whatever it is, or you could put like a couple of quarters or whatever, and put in a holy card. Put in a holy card on the back, put the address of the local traditional chapel, and let it be known that it's traditional with the traditional mass there. You know that the parents are going to look through the stuff. Any good parent looks through the stuff before the kid can, take it. And they'll see that. Who knows? Someone might get the idea, let's go and check this place out, and you'll make a convert through that. That's a great way of doing it. Instead of having a jack-o'-lantern that looks like, it's something that's going to kill you, how about having a carved, I've seen places now that will do this, that will carve out a scene from the Bible. Or make one, with the figure with the outline of the Sacred Heart or an outline of the Blessed Mother. You could do that, right? So you can give sanctity instead of, or with the sugar or instead of sugar. And most importantly, Tell your children the truth about Halloween. Halloween, well, and for people who are against it because, well, the witches celebrate this and Satan worshipers celebrate this, the church has always put something good to replace something evil. The most immediate one that comes to mind was when His Holiness Pope Pius XII replaced on May 1st the feast of St. Philip and James with the feast of St. Joseph the Workman. And that was celebrated by communists. Well, yeah, it is. Isn't it great that they put the true ideal of the workman, St. Joseph, who is you can't get any more anti-communist than St. Joseph, and putting him and honoring him on May 1st. Do the same for Halloween. Do they know what All Saints is about? And what the theology is behind about that holy day of obligation? And that would be a great time also to pray for the dead, not to the dead, not to the angels, but get around a family altar and pray for the holy souls in purgatory, that they may be loosed and join the next All Saints Day. They will be there as well. And that's my suggestions for a holy Halloween.
I love it, and I think I would recommend too for those who are in a parish. I mean, we're doing that here for the second year now, doing an All Saints Day party on All Saints Day, of course, and the kids dress up as a certain saint, and they go to our priest and tell a little bit about their story. That they're the saint they've chosen to dress up as, and they have to tell a bit of the story, and the priest has to guess who they are. And it's a great way for them to learn about the saints and to still dress up and to still have fun with their friends. I mean, it really works. I mean, I think that it's something that I was fortunate enough to grow up in a very good Catholic parish as well, that a lot of my best memories of my childhood were at church. And that, boy, what more could you ask for as a parent, and as a society? I mean, good grief. I mean, that's what we need. I mean, and go out of your way. I mean, whatever it takes, make sure that your children want to come to church, that their fun and their joy revolves around the faith. And it's easy because the faith is beautiful and the saints are beautiful. I mean, that there are feast days the entire year. I mean, every month has several feast days that you can celebrate in many different ways, and this is just one of them. And I love that you mentioned too All Souls Day. That's the day after, obviously, on November 2nd, and that's something that I think is really underappreciated. I think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that people don't appreciate it enough, the holy souls in purgatory. Not just how much we need to help them, and pray for them so that their souls are, released from purgatory and entered into heaven. But if we do, and if we continually go and help them, they're going to help us. Not even, just now when they're in purgatory, are they going to pray for us as well? They're going to pray for us once they're in heaven. So we're actually like making friends. I mean, I love that you have that November atmosphere when you're walking through these cemeteries and praying the rosary, and you just have this feeling of camaraderie. Like, this is we're in this together. I'm praying for you, but hey, you do your part too, and they will, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's something that, again, we need to make sure we remember these parts of our faith and remember how beautiful it is. I think that's the flip side, of course, right, to the occult and how dark the world is. We've got the light. We have the faith, and that's a awesome thing.
The communion of saints.
Exactly right. No, good stuff. As always, enjoyable. I greatly appreciate you coming on and talking about these things and yeah, as you said, spreading knowledge. I think that really is important. Maybe one of these days you can come on. We'll talk about Hitler. Talk about the occultism of Hitler. I'm sorry to go off down this.
You're right.
Dude was a crazy occultist. I mean, like wildly crazy, and that was definitely, and it shaped a lot of what he did, especially in the later years of his rule here in Germany. But no, we'll save that for another time, I suppose. And again, thank you for coming on, and thank you for the good advice for Halloween. I think that's well taken, and I think that I definitely agree as well that I don't think it's something we need to avoid. I think it's something that we need to fix. Be good examples. Again, if you send your children out, even if it's trick or treating, they'll be careful. Probably go with them. Make sure they're dressed as something that people are gonna be like, wait, who are you?
Yeah.
You're Saint Joan of Arc. You're Saint Francis. Why are you him? And I think these are things that people do notice. They do take note, and you never know what grace you're going to give by simply being a good example. So, Intro Ebo, and again, everyone, please go check out the blog over at Intro Ebo adultery2.blogspot.com. I'll link to it here in the show notes. Like, share, subscribe, all of those things, and make sure you share this again, because knowledge, that's what we need in order to help us the best we can get to heaven. Enjoy, Ebo. Until next time, God bless you.
Bye.